So before we really get into the lighting, we just have a little bonus chapter for you. This is a chapter where we are going to be building a quick little pedestal just to make this a little bit nicer, more presentable. Otherwise, our little guy is going to be floating. We do this with a cylinder. Shift right mouse button and select the cylinder. And then we're just going to be scaling this guy up around so. Then we're going to be scaling him down as well, just so he's really tiny. Like so, and then we're going to make sure that he's sitting on the ground, around like so. And then we are going to be selecting the vertex, and then selecting the center vertex. Control right mouse button to faces, and to faces. Then we're going to move this down a little bit. And now we're going to be using the extrude tool. Shift right mouse button, extrude, just go down. And then we're going to set the offset just in a little bit like so. And then we're going to hit the G key, and we're going to set the thickness up. When I'm changing the numbers, I'm holding down Control, just so we can really nicely just get more increments. Hit G again, and we can set the offset to go out a little bit. Then we can hit G again, and make the thickness go up. You saw there was a warning there, and that was because we had polygons on the exact same surface, and that's not good. But because we extruded it once again, it's now a legal topology. Then we are going to hit the G key again and Control and just set the offset. Set the offset in something like this. Hit G, set the thickness up. Hit G, offset, G, thickness, and G, and offset. Essentially what I want to do, I just want to create like a nice little pedestal for this. This is a bit too extreme, so let's just push this in a little bit. Select this polygon, select this. Now we can just scale this in when we are over the green cursor, like so. So now it has a bit of a hierarchy to it. And then just scale everything down just a little bit, because it's a bit too tall right now. So just scale down a little bit on the y-axis, and then we're going to move it down a little bit as well. So if we hit the 3 key now, you can see that this is now really soft. And we want to just make this a bit harder. So what we'll do is we'll start to insert loops. Shift right mouse button and multicut. Hold down the Control key. Then we can just start to add loops in different areas to add more, to make the edges hard. I'll leave this one for now, and I'll show you why. I'll just add these. See if we can get under here. Just add a single one, and one here, and one here. Add one here, and one here, and one here, and then one on the bottom as well. And then what I want to do with this one is I want to select this loop, hit Control B key to bevel, and then we can set the depth, the segments a bit higher. It's actually pretty cool what you can do with a depth. You can make it go in like this, or you can make it go the other way. So you can make it go in if you want to do this, or you can make it go out. I actually just did this by mistake, but it's a cool little happy accident. So I'm just going to keep it like so. And you can actually do the same with this as well. Let's delete these two, and let's do the same here. Hit the B key and just set the segments. So now we get this really nice rounded off effect. So for now we hit the 3 key, you can see what happens. Now we get this nice rounded off little pedestal. And then we can hit Alt D to deselect everything. Shift right mouse button, cylinder. Now we can create another cylinder right in the center. Just scale this guy up. What you can also do instead of scaling is select the verts, right mouse button while hovering over it, and just drag like so, and then we can just put her up like so. And then we could do, if we want this to be subdividable, we could of course add loops, or we could hit the 3 key so that it becomes smooth. We can select face. We can just select the faces on top like this, select the faces on bottom like this. Hold on the Shift key while doing that, delete. Now you can see that we have a really nice surface like this. Now this is hollow, so not super modeling, but in our case, you're never ever going to see the top or the bottom. So just move it down like so, and there we go. Then we are going to be assigning a shader to this. Right mouse button, assign new material, and we are going to be assigning the standard surface. And we're going to be naming this. Actually, let's delete history, Shift-Alt-D. And we're going to be naming it just pedestal underscore shader. And then what we have to do is we have to move this up as well. So we have to actually move all of this up so it's posed a bit better. I want this to be a bit more, I want this to be angled like this instead of like this. So we just have to do that now. But there is an interesting challenge. Since we now have the groom, we can't just move it directly because the groom isn't going to be moved. So we're going to make sure that we have to select this model, this piece, and then we have to go under the prop and just make sure that we control click on the head piece groom as well. And now when we start to rotate this, if we just go in and reset it, you're going to see something weird happening. If we try to rotate this now, you can see that this doesn't rotate the way we expect it to. So what we have to do, we have to set the rotate center to manip. And now you can see this actually, this all now rotates. So let's move this into place. I just went into the side view now, into right view. So move it so it's a little bit more organic, like so. And then we can just move it into place. And then we go under XGen, and we just have to update the groom, just so it actually updates. And there we go. Now we can just move everything a bit back and forth. I think I want to move it a little bit back. Just update the groom. And there we go. Really nice. So now let's do a test render of this, because we still have to edit the shader. Arnold, open render view. Let's see what this looks like. And like before, what we talked about, there's a little bug in Arnold, which means that you actually have to force it to go into the correct camera. You can just scale this down a little bit because now the helmet looks a little bit small. So we can just scale this down. Just stop the render. Just scale this down a little bit. And then we can review again. And then we're going to go under the shader, hit Control A to go into the attribute editor. Shift in the render view under pedestal. And then we'll just set a color to be fairly dark, like so. And that's essentially what we're going to be doing this. This is going to be something more plasticky. We don't want this to take too much attention. Maybe we set the roughness just up a little, just so it doesn't reflect too much. But we want to keep this very nice and simple. And let's review what this looks like now. So pretty cool. In the next chapter, we will do the lighting.